Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of some of the more advanced functions in PowerPoint. This is a tool we all use every day and I don't profess to be an expert, but I have got some hints and tips that might help you use PowerPoint in the future. So without any further delay, let's get into the video. Our first topic is structuring and manipulating content. There are three very simple steps that you can take to make any shape in PowerPoint look much more effective and much more modern. The first step that I would take is, we're using this rectangle as an example, I would take the outline away, as I find that shapes in PowerPoint look much more sleek if you take away the outline. So we'll do that to start. Another tip is that you can add rounded corners to your shapes to make them look a bit more cool. So instead of creating a whole new shape here, we can edit the current shape that we have on the screen. We can go to Edit Shape in the Format toolbar, change shape, and then go to Rounded Rectangle. And then I find it most effective to make the rounded corners quite tight to the edge. The final tip for me is to add a shadow to your shape to make it stand off of the screen. Now, the default shadow for shapes on PowerPoint is this, as you can see. Now, it's quite fuzzy and it's effective, but it can be better. So if we go into Shape Effects, Shadow, and then Shadow Options, I find it quite cool if you turn the transparency of the shadow down, make it slightly larger, turn the blur down on the shadow, and increase the distance from the shape. If we close that now, for me that's now a much more exciting and interesting shape for a presentation than it was before. Another tip for me is how you can make grouped text, bullet points and tables stand out from the page a bit more. At the moment, as you can see on the screen, the content looks, although it's close together, it looks quite unstructured. So one option is to create a shape behind the text and then apply a shadow to that shape. So if we create a rectangle, send that to the back by right-clicking and going to Send to Back, and then get rid of if we turn the shape to white and apply a shadow to that shape, the text is now grouped in a very subtle way and it now stands out of the page, even though it doesn't really look like we've applied any particular formatting to it. So there's another tip there. Let's also take a look at structuring your content. Here you can see that the shape that we created before, and for many presentations you want to multiply that shape and align them on a slide to make them look tidy. Now you can see they're all different shapes here, and there's some very simple but crucial steps you can take to make them more uniform with each other. So one thing we can do to start with to make them all the same size is to select them all at the same time, go to Format, and here at the side in the top right hand corner you can see that you can change the size of the shape. So by changing the size of all of them at the same time, they'll become the same shape size. So let's change it to 3.5 height and 6 width. You can see that they're all the same size now, but they're not aligned with each other. There's different gaps between the images. So we can go to Align, and first we might align them top, so they're all aligned to the top of the first shape. You can then go to Distribute Horizontally. This will make the gap between the objects the same size, and very quickly we've been able to go from 3 disparate shapes to 3 uniform shapes. Moving on, let's look at some more advanced functions. So one thing you might not have known about PowerPoint is that you can create a template for your presentations. This template allows you to put a background to your slides that isn't editable on the main screen. So you can see here that the logo in the top corner doesn't allow me to click on it or edit it from the main screen. And the way to create this template is to go to View and Slide Master. Now if we click through to here and we open up the side part at the side, you can see all of the different templates that I've created for this presentation and for Global Early Career Consultant presentations. The way I've done this is I've created a background by creating a square and applying a gradient to it. So I can delete this on this screen, or I can put it back. And then I've applied the lines and the logo on top of it. You can then also add placeholders. So when you go into a presentation normally, it gives you the opportunity to type into a pre-existing text box, where you can add more text box, picture boxes and table boxes and so on here. If you make any change in the template, so let's bring the logo into the middle, make it larger as an example. And we go to Close Master View. The change is now in the main slides, but you can't edit it. Let's now look at editing images. PowerPoint is actually quite a powerful image editing tool. A common problem for people is removing the background from images. Now let's take this Squirtle image as an example, a very topical image. Let's try and remove the white background from this image. Now there are 4 different options available to us. One is to go into Format and go to Remove Background. That will make the background that the function will remove turn pink, and then you can change the size of this rectangle to incorporate more of the foreground into the picture. Now you'll see here that the remove background function has identified the whites of Squirtle's eyes as being background. Now we don't want to remove that part of the picture, so you can go to Mark Areas to Keep and mark over the areas that you want to keep, and you'll see that as I do this, the whites of his eyes are turning white again. So if we now go to Keep Changes, you'll see that the background has been removed. However, it's not a perfect function. You'll see that the outline of the Squirtle is now a bit fuzzy, and it does have a negative impact on the outline of any picture. So what are the other options? Well, we can go to the picture and go to Color and set Transparent Color. This will allow us to set the white of the background as transparent. Now once again, it's got rid of the white background, but it's also got rid of some of the whites of Squirtle's eyes, and unfortunately there's no way of recovering this here unless you were to insert a white shape behind the Squirtle. And you can see that you can now see the whites of his eyes artificially, but once again we've got a blurred outline around Squirtle because the translucent colour of white doesn't apply right to the edges of the black, which is Squirtle's outline. So that function isn't ideal always either. Another option we have is to crop the image as a shape. So you can go to the crop function and go to crop to shape, and perhaps we could turn it into a rounded rectangle, and therefore you could get rid of the outline slightly, or the border of the Squirtle. Now obviously that's not appropriate here because we've still got lots of white background, but if you were to edit a perfectly circular image, then that tool would certainly work for you there. Final option we have is by far and away the most effort intensive option, but at the same time it can be the most effective. So what we can do is we can save this image as a picture onto your file. Let's call this file Squirtle. We can then create a shape that is exactly the same size. So let's go to Insert, Shape, New Shape, and then make that shape 10.28 in height and 12.63 in width. And we can then format the background of that shape so that it is filled by the picture of the Squirtle. So we can go to Insert Picture from File and go to the picture and insert it here, and there you have it. The image is now nested within a shape. Now why have we done that? So let's remove the original shape. That now allows us to edit the points around the shape. So we can now go to Edit Points, zoom in a bit, go to the edge of the image and go to Add Point, and we can add another point like this and drag the nodes down to the edge of the shape and change the curvature of the outline. So you can see that now the edge of the picture is now fully flush with the edge of the image that we're trying to show with no background. Now so you can imagine that's quite an intensive process, especially when you have quite a complex picture. But I have an example that I produced earlier, and you can see it here. If you go to Edit Points, you can see that all of the points are now flush the edge of the Squirtle, and you have an effect where you're now, with a bit more time and care, the edge of the Pokemon is now clean. It's got no fuzziness around it. So that's the final and perhaps most effective but also most complex option for removing the background to an image. Now let's talk about using animations. Now I've got some examples from previous presentations that I've created to show you here. So let's have a look at those. So here we can click on the screen and shift the results of the survey that we conducted to the side of the screen. You can also see here that I've created this bubble of text, and these are the outcomes from a survey. Now to make this bubble, speech bubble, slightly more interesting, you can make the text move around the screen so it looks like it's alive, like it's moving. And another effect you can then apply is to allow the user, as they're using this in a presentation, to click on the text and make it disappear. So let's say in this example we're discussing the outcome from a survey with a client, and we want to get rid of certain options as we discuss them. So you can then click on the image and it will disappear into the background. Going through them all until we're left with one piece of text right at the very end. So this will make your PowerPoint slightly more different to other ones. So how we produce this effect? So let's take this step by step. We have this image here and we want to create the effect of it moving and shrinking in size to the edge of the page. Now we will click on the image, go to Animations, and take out the animation pane. Now this pane will be very important to you in using animations going forward. So we can apply the grow and shrink effect on this image. It will apply a default effect onto the image, but we want to change it slightly. So you can right click on this animation tool at the side of the page and go to Effect Options and change the extent to which the image increases or decreases in size. So let's change this from 150% to 45%. Now we have to click Enter for this effect to come into effect. You can't just click off of the screen. So if you click Enter, you can see it's now 45%. You can click OK. So this image is now going to reduce to that side, which is great, but we also want it to move around the screen. Now to do this, you can't go back into the toolbar at the top. You have to go to Add Animation, otherwise it will overwrite the current effect that you already have applied. Let's go to Add Animation and go to More Motion Paths at the bottom. Here you'll see a range of options available to you. Some of them won't be appropriate. Here we want to go to the right motion path. Click on that and go to OK. And you'll see there's now an arrow that indicates the path upon which the image will move. We want to edit this path, so you can stretch out the arrow and move it over here. And there you have it. The image is now going to move from one side of the screen to the other. And you can see at the side here on the animation pane, the size of the rectangle shows the length of time that animation is going to go on for. You can also see that the animations are going to go one after the other as we click through. Each option has an on-click start option. We don't want this, we want them to happen at the same time. So let's go to this second motion path effect and go to the start part and say with previous. And now they are both going on the first click of the screen. So let's see this in action. If I now click on the screen, the image is going to decrease in size and move to the side of the screen at the same time. If we repeat this for the other answers to the survey, then you'll get the effect that we saw before. Now let's take a look at how to create the other effect that we saw before. So with this piece of text in this bubble, the first thing we want to do is to make it move around the screen like it's moving, like it's alive. So let's go to Animations again and go to those motion paths that we saw before. And let's make it move in quite an intricate pattern, but really slowly. So let's go to the horizontal figure 8 as an example. If you're doing this for a lot of the pieces of text like we saw before, you would want to change the motion path. But here we'll use this as an example. So let's decrease the size of the motion path so that the text is only moving a small amount. And let's make sure that this little motion path that you can see here is still in the middle of the text. You can then increase the duration of the movement around the screen. So let's change it from 2 seconds to 12 seconds or 10 seconds. Now let's look at this effect in action. So if we click on the screen, the text is now moving very subtly, but it's moving and it's standing out from the page. In order to make this effect occur indefinitely while you're going through the presentation, you can go to the effect in the animation pane, go to Effect Options, Timing, and then Repeat. And this will make the effect happen until the end of the slide. Click to OK, and it will now happen indefinitely. The next effect is to make this piece of text disappear as and when we want it to during the presentation. The way to do this is to create a shape in front of the text that's translucent. So let's create a rectangle, change it to a white fill, and then make this shape nearly completely translucent. So let's make it 99 transparency. Go to close. You can't see the shape, but it's still there. If we now click on the text, go to the Animations toolbar, Add Animation, and as one of the exit effects, go to Zoom Out. It's now going to zoom out. However, at the moment, it's now triggered by clicking anywhere on the screen, which is not ideal if you want to do this to more than one shape. So if we go to Effect Options, go to the Timing and go to the Triggers part at the bottom and say Start Effect on Click Of, and then you can click here on the rectangle that we produced before, rectangle 4. Click OK. And that's going to happen once we click on the rectangle. So let's bring that rectangle back over the text and go to the image and click on the text. And it now disappears because we've clicked on that transparent shape and the text has disappeared as a result. So those are all the functions I was hoping to show you today. Now let's take a look at how those functions can be used together to use PowerPoint in a different way, in a slightly more innovative way. So what I'm going to show you now is a prototype for an application. Let's start the presentation. We can replicate the functionality of a tablet app by using hyperlinks and triggers on PowerPoint. So here, for example, you can click on the ECC Finder app icon and it will take you to the loading screen for this prototype. The app will then automatically update the text in the username password field and allow us to log in by clicking on the login sign. You can then see my profile as I first enter the app, and I can click on the scroll bar at the side. The scroll bar will go up and down, and the text at the side will go up and down accordingly. We can also have a notification function. So you can have halfway through a presentation of this prototype, your notification part at the top can wiggle slightly and you can get the 1 number come up to notify you that you have a notification. You can click on that and then you can see the notification come up and you can click through and that will take you to another part of the application. This is a really cool way of very quickly, and using tools that we already have on our computer, prototyping an app. We could use this for a client, we could use this for internal purposes. It doesn't require the hassle of using HTML or coding. So how have we done this? Now, the most important part of this prototype is that you only allow the user to click on the links that you've set up for them. The way to do this is go to the Transitions toolbar at the top and ensure that in the Advanced Slide section at the top right hand corner you only allow the slide to be advanced by clicking on your links, and that means unclicking the on mouse click option that you probably will already have selected. This means that when I go into the prototype, if I click anywhere else on the screen, the slides don't progress. I have to click on the link that I've already put in place for the slides to progress. Now that I've unhidden the background for this prototype, you can see that it's just an amalgamation of lots of different effects coming together. Here all I've done is applied a hyperlink to the image, to another slide, the next slide within the presentation, slide 2 here. Here for the scrolling effect, I've applied a move animation to the scrolling bar like we saw earlier, but I've applied the same scrolling effect to the text itself. Now the text extends for below the image, and therefore when you move it up you can see the rest of it. The reason why you don't see the text rise up above the fields here is that the text is in the background. It's behind the white background that I put in front of it. Therefore you only ever see the text which is in the little square on the application. Here for the notification function I've applied a minor spin effect to the bell at the top, and I've applied that with a delay so it doesn't happen straight away when you access the screen. I've then applied a trigger so that this square at the side with the notifications on it only appears once you click on the bell. You then apply a hyperlink to the squares so that you can click through from the highlighted notification through to one of the slides further in the presentation. We can make our animations as complex or as simple as we like, but I think this could be a really interesting tool for us to use going forward. That's all from me. I'd be interested to see in the comments if you have any more hints and tips that I've missed today. But other than that, thank you for watching.